You are listening to Access Granted, a layperson's guide to web app security. Like and subscribe to keep up to date on our latest audiobooks. Access Granted, a layperson's guide to web app security. Chapter 1, The Digital Gateway, Why Web Security Matters to Everyone. Imagine a typical morning. You wake up, grab your smartphone, and probably check your email or scroll through social media. Later, you might log into your online banking app to check your balance, order groceries through a delivery service, or browse an e-commerce site for a new gadget. During your workday, you access company systems, collaborate on documents in the cloud, or attend a video conference. In the evening, perhaps you stream a movie, coordinate plans with friends through a messaging service, or pay a bill online. From the moment we open our eyes to when we drift off to sleep, our lives are interwoven with the digital world, specifically with web applications. These applications are the invisible doorways through which we access vast networks of information, communication, and services. Each time you click a sign-in button, tap a finger on a scanner for mobile banking, or share sensitive information, you are trusting a complex system to manage your digital life securely. But how do these digital doors know who you are? How do they decide what you're allowed to see or do once you're inside? For most of us, these mechanics remain hidden, a magical black box that just works until it doesn't. This unquestioning trust, while convenient, carries significant risk. Our personal information, financial data, private communications, and even our professional identities are constantly flowing through these digital gateways. This makes them incredibly valuable targets for those with malicious intent. Every day, headlines scream about data breaches, ransomware attacks, and identity theft. These aren't just technical glitches. They have profound, real-world consequences for individuals and businesses alike. Consider the aftermath of a major data breach like the one suffered by Equifax in 2017. Millions of consumers had their sensitive personal information, including social security numbers and birth dates, exposed. For years, people have faced the threat of identity theft, fraudulent loans opened in their names, and constant vigilance over their credit reports, all because a digital door was left insecure. Or think about the countless individuals whose social media accounts have been hijacked, leading to embarrassment, reputational damage, and even financial scams targeting their friends and family. These incidents are stark reminders that the security of our web applications isn't an abstract technical concern. It's fundamental to our privacy, our finances, and our peace of mind. This book is about pulling back the curtain on two critical, yet often misunderstood, pillars of web security: authentication and authorization. While they sound similar and are often used interchangeably, they represent distinct and equally vital roles in protecting your digital life. Think of it this way: authentication answers the question, are you who you say you are? It's the process by which a web application verifies your identity. When you type in a username and password or use your fingerprint to log into an app, you are authenticating yourself. It's proving you're the legitimate owner of that digital identity. Authorization answers the question, what are you allowed to do? Once the application knows who you are, authorization determines your access rights and permissions. It decides if you can view a certain page, modify specific data, or perform a particular action. For instance, a bank app might authenticate you, then authorize you to view your own account balance but not someone else's, or to transfer money from your checking account but not from your savings, if you haven't set up that permission. These two processes are intertwined but separate. You can be authenticated, the system knows it's you, but still not authorized to perform certain actions. You don't have the permission. Neglecting either one leaves critical vulnerabilities that bad actors are constantly trying to exploit. The digital world is a dynamic landscape, a constant cat and mouse game between those who build and secure web applications and those who seek to exploit their weaknesses for gain. As users, understanding the core concepts of authentication and authorization empowers us to make better decisions about our online security, choose stronger privacy settings, and identify potential threats. For those involved in building or managing web applications, this knowledge is not just beneficial. It's an absolute necessity for safeguarding user data and maintaining trust. This book aims to demystify these essential concepts, translating complex technical processes into clear, accessible language. We will explore how these systems work, why they are so prone to attack, and what best practices are emerging to build more resilient digital gateways. By the end, you'll not only navigate the web with greater confidence, but also appreciate the intricate dance of security that happens every time you pass through a digital door. Chapter 2: Identity and Trust. The foundational concepts. In the previous chapter, we established that web applications are our daily digital gateways, and that understanding how we prove who we are, authentication, and what we're allowed to do, authorization, is crucial. Before we dive into the mechanics of these processes, we need to lay some groundwork by defining what we mean by identity in the digital realm and how the concept of trust underpins all secure online interactions. What is identity in the digital world? When we talk about identity in the physical world, it's fairly straightforward. Your name, your face, your fingerprints, perhaps a passport or driver's license. But what about online? In the digital world, your identity is a collection of unique attributes and data points that together represent you to a web application. It's more than just the username you choose. Behind that name, a system might associate a unique identifier, often a long, complex string of characters that the system uses internally to distinguish you from everyone else. This is like your customer ID number at a bank, your email address, a common way to associate you with an account, your password or a scrambled version of it, the secret you know that proves you're you. Other personal information, your name, address, phone number, date of birth, and sometimes even your IP address or the devices you use to access the service. When you first create an account on a social media platform, an e-commerce site, or an online banking portal, you are essentially establishing a digital identity with that specific service. You provide certain pieces of information, and the service creates a record, linking those attributes to your unique digital self within their system. This digital identity is what the web application will try to confirm each time you try to access your account. The concept of trust. Once your digital identity is established with a web application, the entire security process boils down to one fundamental concept: trust. How does a web application learn to trust you? It trusts you when you accurately provide the credentials tied to your digital identity. If you type in the correct username and password, the system trusts that you are indeed the account owner. If you present a valid biometric scan, it trusts you. This trust, however, is not given freely or permanently. It must be continuously verified. How do you learn to trust a web application? This is also critical. When you visit a website, how do you know it's legitimate and not a cleverly disguised fake trying to steal your information? You look for signs of trustworthiness. The padlock icon in your browser's address bar indicating a secure, encrypted connection, HTTPS, a recognizable brand name, and a professional appearance. This trust is built on the confidence that the application will protect your data, handle it responsibly, and uphold its end of the secure interaction. Think of it like being admitted to a secure building. When you arrive at the reception desk, the building's security system needs to know who you are. This is where your identity comes in. You state your name, identification, and then present some proof. Perhaps you show your employee badge, or a printed invitation, or a government-issued ID verification. Once your identity is confirmed, the system trusts that you are a legitimate visitor. But the trust doesn't stop there. You also need to trust the building. You trust that its security systems are working, that the floors won't collapse, and that it isn't a facade designed to lure you into a trap. In the digital world, this reciprocal trust is vital. Secure web applications are built on a bedrock of verifiable identities and mutual confidence. The role of credentials. Your digital proof. The tools you use to prove your digital identity are called credentials. These are pieces of information or objects that only you should possess or know, and that a web application can verify. The most common credential, and one we'll discuss in depth, is the password. But credentials can take many forms: something you know, a password, a PIN, a memorable phrase, a secret answer to a security question. Something you have. Your smartphone for a one-time code, a physical security key, a smart card. Something you are. Your fingerprint, your facial scan, your voice pattern, your iris scan. These credentials are your digital keys. They are what allow the web application to establish and maintain trust in your identity. Presenting the right credential at the right time is how you establish that initial proof of who you are. Understanding the client-server dance, simplified. For any web application to function, there's a constant interaction happening behind the scenes, often referred to as the client-server model. The client. This is usually your web browser, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, or a mobile app on your phone. It's the software you use to interact with the web application. The server. This is a powerful computer or network of computers that hosts the web application. It stores the data, runs the application's logic, and responds to requests from clients. When you type a website address or click a link, your client browser sends a request to the server. The server processes that request and sends back the necessary information, like the web page you want to see. This constant back-and-forth communication is essential for everything you do online, including the processes of authentication and authorization. For example, when you type your username and password into a login form, your client sends that information to the server. The server then checks that information against its records. If it matches, the server sends a signal back to your client, indicating that you are now logged in. All of this must happen securely, protected from eavesdroppers or tampering. Underlying security goals: confidentiality, integrity, and availability, CIA. The entire architecture of secure web applications is designed to uphold three primary security goals, often referred to as the CIA triad. Confidentiality. This is about keeping your secret secret. It ensures that only authorized individuals can access sensitive information. When you log into your banking app, you expect that your bank balance and transaction history are confidential and can only be viewed by you and authorized bank personnel. Authentication and authorization are the primary gatekeepers for confidentiality. Integrity. This ensures that information is accurate and hasn't been tampered with or corrupted, either accidentally or maliciously. For instance, when you transfer money, you want to be sure that the amount you intended to send is the amount that was actually sent, and that the recipient's account was credited correctly. Strong authorization controls prevent unauthorized changes to data. Availability. This means that authorized users can access the information and systems when they need to. If your online banking website is down or constantly crashes, it doesn't matter how confidential or integrated your data is, you can't use it. While authentication and authorization don't directly ensure availability, their proper function prevents unauthorized users from disrupting services. These foundational concepts of digital identity, trust, and the CIA triad, alongside a basic understanding of the client-server interaction, provide the necessary framework for delving into the specifics of how web applications authenticate who you are and authorize what you can do. With this groundwork laid, we can now begin to unpack the intricate processes that protect your digital self. Chapter 3: Authentication Unpacked, Proving Who You Are. Traditional Methods. Now that we understand the foundational concepts of digital identity and trust, it's time to delve into the very first gate you encounter when interacting with most web applications: authentication. Authentication is the verifiable act of proving you are who you claim to be. It's the moment the digital system asks, "Is this truly you?" And you provide the undeniable proof. At its core, authentication involves two crucial steps. Identification. You state who you claim to be. Usually, this means entering a username, an email address, or sometimes even a phone number. This is your digital, "Hello, my name is." Verification. You provide proof that you are indeed that person. This is where your credentials come into play. It's the digital equivalent of showing your ID. Let's explore the most common and longest-standing method of verification: passwords. Password-based authentication, the ubiquitous key. For decades, the humble password has been the primary means of digital verification. When you log into an account using a username and password, here's a simplified view of what happens behind the scenes. You provide your credentials. You type your username, identification, and password verification into a login form in your browser or app. Your client sends them to the server. This information travels securely over the internet to the web application server. The server checks its records. the server compares the username you provided with its database of registered users. If it finds a match, it retrieves the scrambled, unreadable version of the password associated with that username. The password is verified. The server takes the password you just typed, applies the same scrambling process to it, and compares the resulting scrambled version with the one it has stored. Access granted or denied. If the scrambled versions match, the server trusts that you are the legitimate user and you are granted access to your account. If they don't match, access is denied. Crucially, modern, secure systems never store your password in a plain, readable format. Instead, they use a process called hashing combined with salting. Think of hashing as a one-way mathematical function that takes your password and turns it into a unique, fixed-length string of characters, the hash or digest. It's incredibly difficult to reverse engineer a password from its hash. Salting adds a unique, random piece of data to your password before it's hashed, making it even harder for attackers to use pre-computed tables of common password hashes. This is why if a company's database is breached, the attacker theoretically only gets scrambled, unreadable passwords, not your actual password. However, despite these protective measures, password-based authentication comes with significant vulnerabilities, mostly stemming from how humans interact with them. Weak passwords. People often choose passwords that are easy to remember but also easy to guess, e.g., 123,456. Password, names of pets, birthdays. Password reuse. Using the same password across multiple websites is a critical risk. If one website's database is breached, that single compromised password can then be used to access all your other accounts, a technique called credential stuffing. Brute force attacks. Attackers use automated programs to rapidly try millions or billions of password combinations until one works. Dictionary attacks. A more refined brute force attack where the program systematically tries words from a dictionary, common phrases, or known leaked passwords. Phishing. This is a social engineering attack where malicious actors trick users into revealing their credentials through deceptive emails, messages, or fake websites that look legitimate. You might receive an email that appears to be from your bank, asking you to verify your account by clicking a link and entering your details on a convincing but fake login page. Credential stuffing. As mentioned, this involves taking large lists of usernames and passwords leaked from previous breaches and automatically trying them on other popular websites. E.g., if your Netflix password was leaked, attackers try it on your banking or social media accounts. Best practices for users. To mitigate these risks, users should use strong, unique passwords. A long phrase or combination of random words is often more secure and easier to remember than complex jumbles of characters. Employ a password manager. These applications securely store and generate complex, unique passwords for all your accounts, removing the burden of memorization. Be vigilant against phishing. Always double-check email senders, hover over links before clicking, and independently navigate to websites from official sources rather than clicking links in suspicious messages. Best practices for developers, conceptual. Beyond hashing and salting, secure applications implement. Rate limiting. Restricting the number of login attempts from a single IP address or user within a certain timeframe to deter brute force attacks. Account lockout policies. Temporarily locking an account after a certain number of failed login attempts. Security for forgot password processes, ensuring the password reset mechanism is robust and doesn't create new vulnerabilities. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, the game changer. Recognizing the inherent weaknesses of single-factor, password-only, authentication, multi-factor authentication, MFA, often referred to as two-factor authentication, 2FA, has become the gold standard for securing online accounts. MFA adds crucial layers of defense by requiring you to provide two or more different types of proof from distinct categories. These categories are something you know. This is typically your password or a PIN. Something you have. This refers to a physical item that only you possess. Common examples include your smartphone, for receiving a one-time code via SMS, text message, though SMS codes are becoming less recommended due to potential phone number hijacking. An authenticator app. Apps like Google Authenticator or Authy generate time-based one-time passwords, TOTP, that change every 30 to 60 seconds. These are generated on your device and don't rely on cell phone networks, making them more secure than SMS. A hardware security key, e.g., UBI-key, a physical USB device that you plug into your computer or tap against your phone. When prompted, you press a button on the key to authenticate. These are highly resistant to phishing. Something you are, this refers to your unique biological characteristics. These are your biometrics: fingerprint scan, common on smartphones and laptops; facial recognition, like Apple Face ID or similar technologies; iris scan, less common but used in some high-security contexts; voice recognition, still developing but used in some voice assistants. Why MFA is critical. Even if an attacker manages to steal your password, something you know, through phishing or a data breach, they won't be able to access your account without also having your second factor, the phone or the physical key or your biometric. This significantly raises the bar for attackers and has been shown to prevent the vast majority of automated online attacks. Anecdote: imagine Sarah gets a convincing phishing email that looks like it's from her bank. She clicks the link, enters her username and password on a fake login page, and instantly her credentials are sent to the attacker. If Sarah didn't have MFA enabled, the attacker could immediately log into her real bank account. But because Sarah had an authenticator app enabled, even with her password, the attacker is stopped dead in their tracks. When they try to log in, the bank asks for a 6-digit code from Sarah's authenticator app, which the attacker doesn't have. Sarah's account remains secure, highlighting the power of that second layer of defense. Session management, staying logged in. Once you've successfully authenticated, you don't want to have to enter your password every time you click a new page or perform an action on the site. This is where session management comes in. A session is essentially a temporary, ongoing interaction between you and the web application after you've logged in. When you authenticate, the server generates a unique session ID, a long, random string of characters, and sends it to your browser, usually stored in a small digital file called a cookie. For the rest of your session, every time your browser sends a request to the server related to that application, it includes this session ID. The server sees the ID, recognizes your session, and knows you are still the authenticated user, allowing you to browse without re-entering your credentials. Think of this session ID as a temporary VIP pass that identifies you throughout your visit. Vulnerabilities in session management. Session hijacking. If an attacker manages to steal your session cookie, they can impersonate you and access your account without needing your username or password. This is why ensuring secure, encrypted connections, HTTPS, is vital, as it protects your session cookies from being intercepted. Fix session IDs. In older or poorly designed systems, a session ID might never change. If a user logs out but the ID remains the same, an attacker who previously stole it might be able to reuse it. Secure systems generate new session IDs for each login. Inadequate session timeouts. If a session remains active indefinitely, even if you close your browser or leave your computer unattended, it could pose a risk. Secure systems typically have automatic timeouts that log you out after a period of inactivity. Best practices for session management. Secure cookies. Ensuring cookies are marked as HTTP only, preventing JavaScript access, and secure, forcing transmission over encrypted HTTPS. Short session timeouts. Automatically ending sessions after a reasonable period of inactivity. Session ID regeneration. Changing the session ID after critical actions, like a password change, to invalidate older, potentially compromised IDs. Traditional authentication, particularly password-based systems, forms the bedrock of our digital interactions. However, as we have seen, they come with inherent complexities and vulnerabilities. The constant arms race between users, developers, and malicious actors has led to the evolution of ever more sophisticated authentication methods, which we will explore in the next chapter. Chapter 4. The modern era of authentication, from single sign-on to biometrics. In the previous chapter, we explored the traditional landscape of authentication. primarily centered around passwords and the critical role of multi-factor authentication, MFA, in bolstering their security. However, the sheer volume of online accounts we manage, coupled with the persistent challenges of password hygiene, has driven innovation in authentication beyond simply adding extra factors. This chapter delves into the solutions designed for convenience, scalability, and enhanced security in our increasingly interconnected digital lives. The password problem revisited. Despite the clear benefits of MFA, managing dozens, if not hundreds, of unique, complex passwords remains a formidable task for the average internet user. The friction caused by complex login processes can sometimes lead to user fatigue, encouraging a return to less secure practices like password reuse. This challenge has fueled the development of solutions that either reduce the number of passwords a user needs to manage or eliminate them altogether. Single sign-on SSO, one key to many doors. Imagine you work for a large company that uses a dozen different web applications for email, project management, sales, human resources, and more. Logging into each one individually would be incredibly time-consuming and frustrating. This is the problem Single Sign-On SSO solves. Single Sign-On SSO allows a user to authenticate once with a central identity provider and then gain access to multiple related applications or services without needing to re-authenticate for each one. How it works: simplified analogy. Think of SSO like a universal ID card. Instead of needing a separate key for your office, the break room, the parking garage, and the gym, you have one master ID card issued by your central organization. You show this card to the main security desk, the identity provider, they verify you, and then they grant you a temporary, secure pass. This pass can then be presented to all the other doors, which trust the central security desk and let you through. Benefits of SSO: user convenience. A single login significantly reduces friction and password fatigue. Enhanced security. Users only need to remember one strong password for the central identity provider, reducing the likelihood of password reuse across different applications. Also, security policies, like MFA, can be centrally enforced at the identity provider level. Centralized management. For organizations, it simplifies user management and strengthens security policies across all applications. Examples of SSO in action include corporate environments where employees log in once to access a suite of internal applications. You also encounter consumer SSO daily with features like Login with Google, Login with Facebook, or Login with Apple, where these tech giants act as the central identity providers. Open authorization, OAuth, delegated permissions. While closely related to SSO and often misunderstood as an authentication protocol, OAuth, open authorization, is fundamentally an authorization framework. Its primary purpose is to allow a user to grant limited access to one service, a client application, to access their information or perform actions on their behalf on another service, a resource server, without sharing their actual login credentials. Analogy: imagine your car has a valet key. You give this key to the valet driver. The valet key allows them to drive your car and park it, but it doesn't give them access to your trunk, your glove compartment, or allow them to change your car's settings. You've delegated a specific, limited permission without giving them your master key. How OAuth works, simplified without the technical dance. You try to use a new photo editing app that wants to access your pictures from your cloud storage. The app redirects you to your cloud storage provider's login page, where you authenticate yourself, securely, directly with the provider. Your cloud storage provider asks you if you give permission for the photo editing app to access your photos. If you grant permission, the cloud storage provider gives the photo editing app a special, limited-use token, like the valet key. The photo editing app then uses this token to retrieve your photos from the cloud, but only those you specifically allowed and only for as long as the token is valid. It never sees your cloud storage password. OAuth is behind many common interactions, such as an app requesting access to your Google Calendar, a fitness app wanting to import data from your health tracker, connecting a scheduling tool to your contacts list. It's crucial to remember, OAuth is not for authentication, proving who you are, but for authorization, what you're allowed to do, or what an application is allowed to do on your behalf. OpenID Connect, OIDC, authentication on top of authorization. Given the power and flexibility of OAuth, developers soon realized they could build an authentication layer on top of it. This led to OpenID Connect, OIDC. OpenID Connect is an authentication protocol built on top of OAuth 2.0 that allows clients to verify the identity of an end user based on the authentication performed by an authorization server. In simpler terms, if OAuth is about access delegation, valet key, OIDC is about identity verification, proving who is trying to use the valet key. How OIDC works simply. When you click Login with Google on a third-party website, you are using OIDC. The website redirects you to Google's login page. You securely log into Google. Google, the identity provider, confirms your identity, and if you consent, sends a special ID token back to the website. This ID token contains verified information about you, e.g., your name, email, a unique ID, digitally signed by Google. The website can then use this signed token to trust that you are indeed the person Google says you are and logs you in. This combines the convenience of SSO with the security of a trusted identity provider, giving the third-party application only the specific identity information it needs, without ever seeing your Google password. Federated identity, trust across organizations. SSO and OIDC are often components of a broader concept known as federated identity. This is where trust relationships are established between independent organizations, allowing users to use their single identity and credentials from one system, e.g., their university login, to access resources or services provided by another system, e.g., an external library database or a partner company's application. It's all about extending the circle of trust. Biometric authentication, something you are. Moving beyond things you know or have, biometric authentication leverages something profoundly unique to you: your biological characteristics. Common biometric methods include fingerprint scanning, widely used on smartphones, laptops, and even some payment terminals. Your unique fingerprint pattern is captured and compared to a securely stored template. Facial recognition. Technologies like Apple's Face ID map the unique contours of your face for authentication. Iris scanning. Less common in consumer devices, but used in high-security environments. It analyzes the intricate patterns in your iris. Voice recognition. While less robust for primary authentication due to variability, it's used as a factor in some systems. How biometrics work, conceptual. When you set up biometric authentication, your device captures a scan of your unique characteristic, e.g., your fingerprint. This scan is then converted into a mathematical representation or template, which is securely stored on your device, and critically, not typically sent to a central server. When you try to authenticate later, a new scan is taken, converted to a template, and compared against the stored one. If they match closely enough, you're authenticated. Advantages: convenience, quick and effortless, replacing password entry. Strong security. Biometrics are very difficult to fake because they are part of your physical self, though not impossible, as we'll discuss in a later chapter on vulnerabilities. Phishing resistant. You can't be tricked into giving away your fingerprint or face scan over a fake login page. Considerations. Once a biometric is compromised, e.g., if a high-resolution image of your fingerprint is stolen, it's very difficult to change it. Unlike a password, you can't simply pick a new finger. This immutability underscores the importance of securing the biometrics themselves and performing the authentication locally on the device. Passwordless authentication, passkeys. The emerging future. Building on the strengths of biometrics and crypto security, the industry is rapidly moving towards passwordless authentication using passkeys. This represents a radical shift from traditional authentication methods. Passkeys, using standards like WebAuthn and FIDO, aim to eliminate the need for passwords entirely by securely associating a unique cryptographic key pair with your account on a website. How passkeys work, simplified. When you create an account or enable a passkey for an existing account, your device, e.g., smartphone, laptop, generates a unique cryptographic key pair. One part of the key, the private key, stays securely on your device, protected by your device's security, e.g., your fingerprint, face scan, or PIN. The other part, the public key, is sent to the website. When you want to log in, the website sends a cryptographic challenge to your device. Your device uses its private key to cryptographically sign this challenge. You confirm this action with your local biometric, fingerprint, face, or PIN. The signed challenge is sent back to the website. The website uses your public key, which it already has, to verify the signature. If it checks out, you're authenticated. Analogy: imagine instead of a username and password, you have a physical, unique key-making machine on your phone. When a website wants to know it's you, it sends a specific shape to your key-making machine. Your machine then produces a unique, perfectly fitting, one-time key for that specific shape, which you then return to the website. The website already has the lock that only your machine's special keys can open. You approve the key-making process with your fingerprint. Advantages of passkeys: extremely phishing-resistant. Since you're not typing credentials, there's nothing for a phishing site to steal. The cryptographic challenge response happens automatically and is tied to the legitimate website's domain. Strong security, based on robust public key cryptography. User-friendly, often just a single tap or face scan on your device. Device syncing. Major platforms, Google, Apple, Microsoft, are enabling passkeys to sync securely across your devices. Passkeys represent a significant leap forward, promising a future where logging into websites is both more secure and dramatically more convenient. This ongoing evolution in authentication showcases the relentless effort to secure our digital lives against ever more sophisticated threats. While authentication focuses on who you are, the next vital step, authorization, dictates what you can do, and that's where we'll turn our attention next. Chapter 5, Authorization Defined, what you are allowed to do. So far, we've focused on authentication, the critical process of verifying your identity. Are you who you say you are? Once a web application has successfully authenticated you, a new, equally important question arises. Now that I know who you are, what exactly are you permitted to do within this application? This question is answered by authorization. Authentication is the bouncer checking your ID at the entrance to a venue. If you pass, you're allowed in. Authorization, however, is what happens after you're inside. It's the system determining if you can access the VIP lounge, go backstage, open a tab at the bar, or simply mingle in the general admission area. You might be fully authenticated, but still not authorized to do everything an application offers. The core of authorization: permissions and access control. At its heart, authorization is about managing permissions and access control. It's the set of rules that dictate what a specific user, or sometimes another application acting on a user's behalf, can do with a specific resource within the system. Every request you make to a web application after logging in involves an authorization check. When you try to view your bank balance, edit your profile information, post a new photo to social media, delete an item from your shopping cart, approve an expense report, the application must decide if you, the authenticated user, have the necessary permission to perform that specific action on that specific resource. Inputs to an authorization decision. A robust authorization system considers several pieces of information to make a decision. The user's identity, who is authenticated and making the request, e.g., Sarah, Manager John, Administrator Bob, the resource being accessed, what specific data or functionality is being requested, e.g., customer account number 123, the delete order function, my profile picture, the earnings report for Q3, the action being attempted, what operation is the user trying to perform, e.g., read, write, create, delete, update, execute, approve. Contextual factors sometimes authorization decisions are also influenced by other factors such as time of day. Can this action only be performed during business hours? Location. Is the user accessing from an approved IP address or geographical region? Device type. Is the user on a corporate laptop or a personal mobile device? Sensitivity level. Is the data highly confidential, requiring extra checks? Based on these inputs, the authorization system evaluates its configured rules and determines whether to grant or deny access. The principle of least privilege, a golden rule of security. A fundamental security concept that guides all authorization design is the principle of least privilege. This principle states that users and systems, applications, or processes should be granted only the minimum level of access and permissions necessary to perform their required tasks, and no more. Why is this so important? Consider this anecdote. A large corporate data breach occurred because a marketing analyst, who only needed to view customer contact information for reporting, had been inadvertently granted administrator access to the customer database. This level of access allowed not just viewing, but also editing and deleting any customer record. When the analyst's account was compromised through a phishing scam, the attackers not only gained access to the data they were looking for, but also had the ability to maliciously alter or wipe the entire database, causing far greater damage than if the analyst had possessed only the necessary view permissions. Had the principle of least privilege been applied, the marketing analyst would have only had read access to specific customer data. While a breach of that account would still be problematic, the scope of damage would have been significantly limited, preventing the catastrophic data manipulation or deletion. Applying the principle of least privilege helps limit the blast radius of a breach. If an account is compromised, the attacker can only do as much damage as that specific account is authorized to do. Reduce the attack surface. Fewer entry points for unauthorized actions. Improve system stability. Prevents accidental misconfigurations or deletions by users with excessive permissions. Simplify auditing. Makes it easier to track who did what and why. Illustrative examples of authorization in action. Let's look at how authorization plays out in applications you use every day. Social media platform, e.g. Facebook. You, authenticated user, can post to your own feed, edit your own profile, delete your own comments. Your friend, authenticated user, can view your public posts, comment on them, but cannot edit or delete your posts or alter your profile. This is authorization at work. Platform administrator can potentially view all public and private data with strict internal controls, delete any post, suspend accounts. Their authorization is vastly different from a regular user's. Online banking, you, authenticated customer, can view your specific accounts, e.g., checking, savings, transfer money between your accounts, and pay your own bills. Bank employee, authenticated and authorized for specific role. A customer service representative might be authorized to view your account details and transaction history, but not to initiate money transfers from your account. An internal auditor might be authorized to view a wider range of customer data for regulatory purposes, but might not have the power to alter it. Each role has distinct authorized actions. E-commerce website, guest user not authenticated, can browse products, add items to a temporary cart. Registered customer, authenticated, can view their own order history, manage their own saved payment methods and shipping addresses. Store employee, authenticated and authorized for specific tasks. A warehouse packer can update an order's shipping status, but cannot change its price. A manager can issue refunds and manage inventory. In all these scenarios, your authentication answers, "Who are you?" But your authorization dictates the very specific, what you can actually do. Without effective authorization, even perfectly authenticated users could potentially wreak havoc, access sensitive data they shouldn't see, or perform actions that undermine the integrity of the system. In the next chapter, we'll delve into the common models and strategies that web applications use to define and manage these permissions. Chapter 6. Granting permissions, roles, attributes, and beyond. In the previous chapter, we established that once you're authenticated, authorization determines what you're allowed to do. But how do web applications actually manage and enforce these permissions? How do they decide which VIP lounge you can access or which functions are available to you? This is where access control models come into play. These models provide structured ways to define, organize, and grant permissions efficiently and securely. Access control models, structuring permissions. There are several approaches to managing access, each with its own advantages and complexity. The two most prominent models in web applications are role-based access control and attribute-based access control. Role-based access control, RBAC, simple and widely used. Role-based access control, RBAC, is by far the most common and intuitive method for managing permissions. In RBAC, access decisions are based on the roles a user holds within an organization or application. Instead of assigning individual permissions to individual users, you assign permissions to roles, and then assign users to those roles. How it works: define roles. First, the system defines logical roles that represent functions or responsibilities within the application. Examples might include administrator, editor, viewer, customer, sales manager, IT support, HR employee. Assign permissions to roles. Next, specific permissions, e.g., create news article, edit any news article, view all customer data, delete user account, are associated with each role. For example, the editor role might have permissions to create, read, and update news articles, while the viewer role might only have read permission for news articles. Assign users to roles. Finally, users are assigned one or more roles. If a user is assigned the editor role, they automatically inherit all the permissions associated with that role. If they also have the administrator role, they get the combined set of permissions from both. Analogy: think of a company with different job titles. Each job title, the role, comes with a predefined set of responsibilities and access privileges. A manager role has access to certain reports and can approve expenses permissions, while a junior associate role has access to a different set of tools and data. When you get promoted, you gain new permissions simply by being assigned a new job title. Advantages of RBAC: simplicity and clarity, easy to understand and manage, even for non-technical users. Scalability: efficient for managing permissions in applications with many users. Instead of managing permissions for thousands of users individually, you manage them for a handful of roles. Standardization: helps enforce consistent access policies across the organization. Disadvantages of RBAC: limited granularity, can become unwieldy if access needs become very fine-grained, e.g., this specific user can edit only their own news article, but not others. RBAC isn't naturally designed for such detailed, context-specific rules. Role explosion: if you try to manage too many unique permission sets through roles, you end up with an unmanageable number of roles, defeating the purpose of simplification. RBAC is ideal for situations where permissions are largely static and tied to distinct, well-defined job functions or user types. Attribute-based access control, ABAC. Flexible and granular. For scenarios demanding very fine-grained and dynamic authorization decisions, attribute-based access control, ABAC, offers a powerful alternative. Instead of relying on predefined roles, ABAC bases access decisions on a sophisticated evaluation of attributes associated with the user, the resource, the action being attempted, and the environment. How it works: define attributes, identify relevant characteristics or properties. User attributes: department, e.g., HR, marketing; clearance level, e.g., top secret, confidential; employee ID, geographic location. Resource attributes: sensitivity, e.g., public, private; highly confidential; owner, e.g., Mary's document; creation date, file type. Action attributes: read, write, delete, approve, sign. Environment attributes: time of day, IP address, device type, e.g., mobile, desktop, network security level. Write policies: access is determined by evaluating policies that combine these attributes using logical rules. For example, a user can read a document if their department is marketing and the document sensitivity is public. A user can approve a purchase order if their clearance level is level 5 and the purchase order amount is less than $1,000 and the time of day is during business hours. A user can edit their own profile if they are logged in from a trusted network. Analogy: imagine a highly complex, dynamic security system for a secret society. Instead of just a member role, access to different areas or documents depends on a combination of factors. You can enter this room if you are a member and you have a red badge and it's Tuesday, and you completed the advanced ritual last month, and your current location is within the temple grounds. It's incredibly specific and adaptable. Advantages of ABAC: fine-grained control, allows for extremely precise and nuanced access decisions. Flexibility and dynamism. Policies can be easily updated and adapted to new requirements without needing to modify user roles or permissions lists. Scalability for complexity. Handles complex access scenarios that would lead to role explosion in RBAC. Disadvantages of ABAC. Complexity. More difficult to design, implement, and manage, often requiring specialized policy engines. Performance. Evaluating complex attribute-based policies can be more resource-intensive than simple role lookups. Debugging. Identifying why a specific user does or doesn't have access can be challenging due to the intricate policy logic. ABAC is particularly useful for large enterprises, cloud environments, or applications with highly dynamic access requirements, where fixed roles aren't sufficient. Considering hierarchies, both RBAC and ABAC can incorporate hierarchical structures. In RBAC, this might mean that an administrator role inherently includes all the permissions of a manager role, which in turn includes all the permissions of a standard user. This simplifies permission assignment, as you don't have to explicitly grant standard user permissions to the administrator role, they inherit them. Best practices for authorization design. Regardless of the model chosen, several best practices are critical for robust authorization. Implement the principle of least privilege. This is paramount. Every user, role, and system component should have only the minimum access required to perform its duties. Regularly review and revoke unnecessary permissions. Fail securely, default deny. The default rule should always be to deny access unless explicitly granted. This means if an authorization check fails or a rule is missing, access should be denied. Audit trails and logging. Record significant authorization decisions, e.g., who accessed what when and whether it was granted or denied. These logs are crucial for security monitoring, forensic analysis after an incident, and regulatory compliance. Regular review. Permissions and roles should not be set once and forgotten. As job responsibilities change, employees move roles, or system requirements evolve, access controls need regular review and adjustment. Consider user impersonation. For support or debugging, some systems allow administrators to temporarily impersonate another user. This is a powerful feature, but must be strictly logged and itself be under robust authorization control. Authorization is the intricate mechanism that dictates our digital capabilities, maintaining order and security within complex web applications. By carefully designing and implementing access controls, applications can ensure that authenticated users only interact with the parts of the system and data that they are legitimately meant to. In the next chapter, we'll bring these concepts to life by walking through how authentication and authorization work in common real-world scenarios. Chapter 7: Real-World Scenarios. How authentication and authorization work in action. We've covered the foundational concepts of identity and trust, the mechanisms of authentication, proving who you are, and the principles of authorization, what you're allowed to do. Now, let's bring these concepts to life by walking through common web application scenarios. We'll strip away the technical jargon and focus on how these two critical security pillars operate together, often seamlessly, in our daily online interactions. Scenario 1. Logging into an e-commerce website, e.g., your favorite online store. Imagine you want to buy a new book from an online store you frequently use. The initial encounter. You open your browser and navigate to the online store's website. You can browse products, see prices, and add items to your cart even without logging in. At this stage, you're an unauthenticated guest. The website authorizes you to view public product pages and manipulate your personal shopping cart without knowing who you are. Authentication, proving your identity. When you decide to check out or view your past orders, the website prompts you to sign in. You enter your registered email address and password. The website server receives these credentials, applies cryptographic hashing to your password, and compares it with the securely stored, hashed, and salted version in its database. If you've enabled multi-factor authentication, MFA, the website might send a code to your phone or ask for a biometric scan. You provide this second factor. Result: upon successful verification, the website authenticates you. It now knows you are Jane Doe, the account owner. A secure session is established, often using a session cookie, so you don't have to log in on every page. Authorization: what Jane Doe can do. Now that you're authenticated, the website immediately begins to apply authorization rules based on your identity as a customer. Viewing past orders, you click My Orders. The website's authorization system checks if Jane Doe is authorized to view order details. Crucially, it specifically checks if Jane Doe is authorized to view order ID 12,345, and that this order belongs to Jane Doe. You are authorized to see all your own purchases, but absolutely not anyone else's. Updating shipping information, you go to Account Settings. You are authorized to update your own name, address, and payment methods. You cannot update the shipping address for another customer's account. Making a purchase, you add the new book to your cart and proceed to checkout. The system authorizes you to complete a transaction tied to your own account and your own payment methods. Behind the scenes, the store administrator. Now, consider an employee of the same online store. Let's call her Sarah, who works in customer service. Authentication. Sarah logs into the internal e-commerce administration panel using her employee credentials and an organization-mandated MFA. Authorization. Sarah is granted a customer service representative role. This role comes with specific permissions. She is authorized to view details of any customer's order, e.g., to help Jane Doe if she calls with a query about order 12,345. She is authorized to initiate a return or refund for a customer. However, Sarah is not authorized to change a customer's password directly, view their complete credit card number, or access sensitive financial transaction details, principle of least privilege. These actions might require a higher role, like a customer service manager or a financial administrator. This example vividly illustrates how authentication provides the identity, and authorization then meticulously carves out what each identity can or cannot do, ensuring data privacy and system integrity. Scenario 2. Collaborative document editing, e.g., Google Docs. You're working on a project with a team, and you use a shared online document service. Authentication. You navigate to the document service's website. You're prompted to log in with your account. You provide your email and password and complete your MFA. Result: you are authenticated as Project Member A. Authorization. Your role in the document. Now the document service's authorization system takes over. The level of access you have depends on how you were invited or granted access to the specific document. Editor role. As an editor on the document, you are authorized to read the entire document, make changes to any part of the document, add or delete content, invite others to view or edit depending on further granular sharing settings. Commenter role. A colleague, Project Member B, might be designated as a commenter. They are authorized to read the entire document, add comments, but not authorized to directly edit or delete the content of the document. Viewer role. Another colleague, Project Member C, might only have viewer access. They are authorized to read the entire document, but not authorized to make any changes or add comments. This scenario highlights role-based access control, RBAC, where predefined roles, editor, commenter, viewer, come with specific sets of permissions, streamlining the collaborative process while maintaining content integrity. Scenario 3. Using a ride-sharing app, e.g., Uber or Lyft. You need a ride, so you open your favorite ride-sharing app. Authentication. You open the app on your phone. If you've been logged out, you might need to re-authenticate with your phone number and a one-time code sent via SMS, or with a linked social media account, SSO OIDC. Your phone's biometrics might confirm your identity. Result: you are authenticated as Rider John. Authorization. What Rider John can do. Requesting a ride. Your identity as a rider authorizes you to request a ride from your current location, select a destination, and view estimated fares. Viewing trip history. You are authorized to view your past trips and spending, but not anyone else's. Rating drivers. After a ride, you are authorized to provide a rating for your specific driver on your completed trip. You can't rate random drivers you haven't ridden with. Updating payment methods. You are authorized to add or remove your own payment methods. Behind the scenes, the driver. Now consider driver Alex, who also uses the app. Authentication. Alex logs into the driver version of the app using specific driver credentials, likely with additional verification steps to confirm their identity as a registered driver. Authorization. Alex holds the driver role, which grants different permissions. Alex is authorized to see incoming ride requests, their pickup and drop-off locations, and the fare. Alex is authorized to accept a ride, navigate to the pickup, and begin end a trip. Alex is authorized to see your name and rating as a rider once they accept your trip. Alex is not authorized to view your full address history, your payment details, or any other private information beyond what's necessary for the current trip. Alex is not authorized to randomly pick up any person off the street using the app. Their access is controlled by the app's matching algorithm. These examples demonstrate how web applications meticulously combine authentication and authorization to create secure, personalized, and functional user experiences. Every click, every data display, and every action you perform online triggers an internal decision process that relies on these two fundamental security principles. While powerful, these systems are not infallible, and understanding their vulnerabilities is crucial, which is where we turn our attention next. Chapter 8, The Dark Side, Common Vulnerabilities and Attacks. We've now explored how authentication and authorization are designed to protect our digital lives, acting as digital gatekeepers and permission granters. But even the strongest doors can have cracks, and clever adversaries are constantly searching for them. This chapter delves into the dark side, the common vulnerabilities and attack techniques that target authentication and authorization mechanisms in web applications. While we avoid technical code details, understanding how these attacks conceptually work is crucial for both users and developers to defend against them. No system is perfectly secure, and the attacker's goal is often to bypass or manipulate these security controls to gain unauthorized access to data or functions. Authentication-related attacks, aiming for your identity. These attacks specifically target the process of proving who you are, trying to steal or bypass your credentials. Phishing and spear phishing. Concept. This is a social engineering attack where malicious actors use deceptive communications, emails, text messages, fake websites, to trick users into revealing their login credentials or other sensitive information. They often create fake login pages that look identical to legitimate ones. How it works. You receive an email, supposedly from your bank or a popular online service, claiming there's an issue with your account. You click a link, which takes you to a website specifically designed to mimic the real one. You enter your username and password, convinced you're on the legitimate site, but in reality, you've just handed your credentials directly to the attacker. Spear phishing, a more targeted version of phishing, where the attacker researches their victim to tailor the deceptive message, making it more convincing, e.g., an email appearing to come from your CEO or a colleague. Why it's dangerous. It bypasses technical controls by exploiting human trust and vigilance. If it succeeds, the attacker gains your full authentication credentials. Brute force attacks. Concept. Automated programs attempt to guess passwords by trying a vast number of combinations or common words until they find the correct one. How it works. An attacker repeatedly tries different passwords for a username, often using powerful computers or botnets to try millions of guesses per second. Defense. Strong password policies, e.g., long, complex passwords, rate-limiting blocking attempts after too many failures, and account lockout policies. MFA is a strong defense as even if the password is guessed, the second factor is still needed. Credential stuffing. Concept. Leverages the common practice of password reuse. Attackers take lists of usernames and passwords stolen from one data breach, often available for sale or free on the dark web, and stuff them into login forms of other popular websites. How it works. If your email and password for a gaming site were leaked, an attacker tries those same credentials on your banking, social media, or shopping accounts. Since many people reuse passwords, this often works. Defense. Using unique, strong passwords for every account, best achieved with a password manager, and crucially, enabling MFA everywhere. Session hijacking. Concept. Stealing an active session ID, the temporary VIP pass we discussed to impersonate a logged-in user. How it works. If a web application uses insecure HTTP instead of HTTPS, or if there's a flaw that allows JavaScript to access cookies not marked as HTTP only, an attacker might be able to intercept or steal your session cookie. Once they have it, they can put it in their own browser and bypass the login process entirely, appearing as you to the web application. Defense. Always using HTTPS, ensuring session cookies are marked as HTTP only and secure, and having appropriate session timeouts. Authorization-related attacks. Gaining unwarranted privileges. These attacks target the rules and logic that determine what you're allowed to do, seeking to gain access to resources or functionality they shouldn't. Insecure Direct Object References, IDOR. Concept. Occurs when a web application exposes a direct reference to an internal implementation object, like a file name, database key, or directory name, without proper authorization checks. An attacker can manipulate this reference to access data or functions they shouldn't. How it works. Imagine you're viewing your order history and the URL looks something like www.example.com/orders?id equals 123. If an attacker changes ID equals 123 to ID equals 124, and the application doesn't check if order 124 actually belongs to them, they could view another customer's order. Analogy, you're in a hotel room and the front desk gives you a paper key with your room number written on it. If you scratch out your room number e.g. 205 and write another e.g. 206, and then try to open that door, the hotel's flaw is that it only validates the number on the paper, not whether you're authorized to be in room 206. Defense. Implementing robust server-side authorization checks for every request to ensure the authenticated user is authorized to access the specific resource being requested. Broken access control/privilege escalation. Concept. General term for flaws in an application's authorization logic that allow a user to perform actions or access data they are not intended to. This can lead to privilege escalation, where a user gains higher-level permissions, e.g., a regular user becoming an administrator. How it works. Vertical privilege escalation. A user gains access to functionality or data associated with a higher privileged user. For example, a customer finds a way to access features meant only for an admin, such as deleting products from a store catalog. Horizontal privilege escalation. A user gains access to functionality or data associated with a user of the same privilege level, but a different user account. For example, a customer accesses another customer's private information. Common causes. Misconfigurations, flaws in the authorization code, exposed administrative interfaces, or assumptions that certain parts of the application won't be accessed by unauthorized users. Defense. Strict enforcement of the principle of least privilege, comprehensive and repeated testing for access control vulnerabilities, and using mature access control frameworks. Lack of functional level access control. Concept. This is a specific type of broken access control where an application doesn't properly restrict what functions an authenticated user can call. How it works. An attacker might discover that by directly sending a request to a certain hidden administrative URL, e.g., www.example.com/admin/deleteUser?id equals 5. Even a regular user account can accidentally trigger an administrative function because the application only checks if the user is logged in, not if they have the authority to perform that specific delete user action. Defense. Every function and API endpoint must have explicit authorization checks to ensure the calling user has the necessary permissions. Other related threats. Brief mention for context. While not direct authentication authorization attacks, some other vulnerabilities can facilitate them. Cross-site scripting, XSS, injecting malicious scripts into web pages. If successful, XSS could potentially steal a user's session cookies, leading to session hijacking. SQL injection, manipulating database queries. In older or poorly protected systems, a successful SQL injection could theoretically bypass login forms by tricking the database into thinking valid credentials were provided. The human element. social engineering, and insider threats. Beyond technical flaws, the human element remains a significant vulnerability. Social engineering, techniques that psychological manipulation to trick people into performing actions or divulging confidential information. Phishing is a form of social engineering. Insider threats, malicious or negligent actions by current or former employees, contractors, or business partners who have legitimate access to systems. Even with perfect technical controls, an authorized insider with malicious intent can pose a significant risk. Understanding these attack vectors is the first step in defending against them. For users, it means being vigilant and adopting good security habits. For developers and organizations, it means designing, building, and maintaining web applications with security as a continuous top priority. In the next chapter, we'll discuss the proactive steps and best practices to build strong, resilient digital doors and the robust security systems behind them. Chapter 9. Building Strong Doors. Best Practices for Secure Web Applications. Having explored the landscape of authentication and authorization, and understood the formidable challenges posed by vulnerabilities and attacks, the natural next question is, how do we build and maintain truly secure web applications? This chapter shifts our focus from understanding the problem to outlining the solutions, the essential best practices for developers, system administrators, and even users to collectively enhance the security posture of the digital world. For developers and system administrators, security by design. The responsibility for building secure web applications primarily rests with those who design, develop, and manage them. Security should not be an afterthought, bolted on at the end of the development cycle. Instead, it must be integrated from the very beginning of a project, a concept known as security by design. Embrace the principle of least privilege. Again, this cannot be overstressed. For every user, role, and even internal system component, like microservices or database connections, grant only the absolute minimum permissions required to perform its function. Regularly review these permissions to ensure they haven't expanded beyond necessity. This drastically limits the damage an attacker can do if a part of the system is compromised. Robust password and credential management. Always hash and salt passwords. Never store plain text passwords. Use strong, industry-standard hashing algorithms like bcrypt or Argon2 with proper salting. Secure API keys and tokens. All sensitive credentials, like API keys or database connection strings, must be stored securely, e.g., in encrypted vaults. Never hard-coded into applications or configuration files accessible by unauthorized parties. Discourage weak passwords. Implement policies that enforce minimum password length, complexity, and disallow common or breached passwords. Implement and encourage multi-factor authentication, MFA. Offer MFA options. Provide users with multiple MFA options. Authenticator apps, hardware tokens are preferred over SMS. Make it easy to enable. Design the user experience to make it simple for users to set up MFA. Consider mandatory MFA. For sensitive data or administrative access, make MFA mandatory. Secure session management. Use secure cookies. Mark session cookies as HTTP only to prevent client-side script access, secure to ensure transmission over HTTPS only, and same site to mitigate cross-site request forgery attacks. Implement session timeouts. Automatically log users out after a period of inactivity, especially for sensitive applications like banking. Regenerate session IDs. Issue a new session ID after a successful login and after critical actions, like password changes, to prevent fixation attacks. Rigorous input validation and output encoding. Validate all inputs. Assume all user input is malicious. Check that data conforms to expected types, lengths, and formats. This is crucial for preventing injection attacks, SQL injection, XSS, that could lead to authentication bypass or privilege escalation. Encode all outputs. Ensure any user-supplied data displayed on a web page is properly encoded to prevent browser misinterpretation that could lead to XSS. Comprehensive logging and monitoring. Log security events. Record all successful and failed authentication attempts, authorization denials, password changes, and other critical security events. Monitor logs continuously. Use security information and event management (SIEM) systems to analyze logs for suspicious patterns, e.g., repeated failed logins from unusual locations, rapid succession of access denials that could indicate an ongoing attack. Alerting. Set up automated alerts for critical security incidents. Regular security audits and penetration testing, white box testing, reviewing the application's source code, configurations, and architecture for vulnerabilities. Black box testing, penetration testing, simulating real-world attacks to find exploitable weaknesses in a deployed application. Conduct these regularly, especially after major changes. Vulnerability scanning. Use automated tools to identify known vulnerabilities. Have an incident response plan. No system is impregnable. Prepare for the inevitable. Develop a clear plan for how to detect, respond to, contain, and recover from a security incident, e.g., a data breach or an attack. This includes communication strategies. Keep software updated. Regularly patch and update all components of your application and its infrastructure, including operating systems, web servers, databases, libraries, and frameworks. Attackers often target systems with known, unpatched vulnerabilities. For users, your role in the security chain. While developers build the secure applications, users also have a crucial role to play. Even the strongest digital door can be defeated if the key is left under the doormat. Use strong, unique passwords for every account. This is the most impactful personal security measure you can take. Length over complexity. A long passphrase, e.g., "The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog in the rain at 9:30, is often more secure and memorable than a complex, short password. Password managers are your friends. Use a reputable password manager, e.g., LastPass, 1Password, Bitwarden, to generate, store, and autofill strong, unique passwords for all your accounts. Enable multi-factor authentication, MFA, everywhere possible, especially for critical accounts like email, banking, cloud storage, and social media. Even if your password is stolen, the attacker will be blocked by the second factor. Prefer authenticator apps or hardware keys over SMS codes. Be skeptical. Watch out for phishing and social engineering. Verify senders. Always check the sender's email address in suspicious messages. Hover before you click. Before clicking a link, hover your mouse over it, or long press on mobile to see the actual URL. If it doesn't match the expected domain, don't click. Never click links in suspicious emails for sensitive actions. If you receive an email from your bank asking you to verify your account, ignore the link. Instead, open your browser and navigate directly to your bank's website as you normally would. Be wary of urgency tactics. Phishing emails often create a sense of urgency to bypass rational thought. Keep your devices and software updated. Enable automatic updates for your operating system, web browser, and all applications. These updates often include critical security patches. Understand and review permissions. When you log into a third-party app using Login with Google Facebook, pay attention to the permissions it requests. Does a photo editing app really need access to your email contacts? Regularly review the Connected Apps or App Permissions sections in your social media and cloud accounts, and revoke access for apps you no longer use or trust. Recognize secure connections, HTTPS. Always look for HTTPS and the padlock icon in your browser's address bar, especially when logging in or entering sensitive information. This indicates that your connection to the website is encrypted. Be mindful of what you share online. The less personal information publicly available, the harder it is for malicious actors to craft convincing phishing attacks or answer security questions. The shared responsibility, a collective effort. Ultimately, building a safer web is a collective responsibility. It's a continuous, evolving process because the threats are also continuously evolving. Developers must strive to build resilient systems that anticipate and defend against attacks. Users must adopt vigilant habits that don't compromise the security measures put in place. By understanding the principles, practices, and pitfalls of authentication and authorization, both groups can contribute to a more secure and trustworthy digital environment for everyone. As technology advances, so too do the ways we prove identity and manage access. In our final chapters, we'll cast our gaze towards the horizon, examining the future of identity and access management and what role you'll play in shaping a safer digital world. Chapter 10, Looking Ahead, the Future of Identity and Access Management. We've journeyed from the basics of proving who you are and what you can do, through the historical evolution of security practices, and into the current best practices for building robust defenses. But the digital world is relentless in its innovation, and the landscape of identity and access management, IAM, is no exception. New technologies, changing user expectations, and evolving threat models are constantly reshaping how we authenticate and authorize. This chapter will cast our gaze forward, exploring the trends and emerging concepts that are defining the future of IAM. The passwordless future, passkeys and beyond. One of the most significant shifts on the horizon, already gaining considerable momentum, is the broad adoption of passwordless authentication, epitomized by passkeys. We touched upon this in Chapter 4, but it bears revisiting as the clear trajectory for consumer identity. Key concept: passkeys eliminate the need for traditional passwords by leveraging strong cryptographic identity on your devices, like your smartphone or laptop. When you want to log in, you simply confirm your identity with your device's existing security features, such as your fingerprint, face scan, or PIN. Why it's the future: phishing resistance. This is the game changer. Since you're not typing a secret, there's nothing for a malicious website or phishing email to steal by tricking you into entering it. User convenience. A quick biometric scan or PIN entry is far faster and less cumbersome than typing complex passwords and MFA codes. Strong security, built on robust public key cryptography, making them exceptionally difficult to compromise. Cross-platform adoption. Major tech players, Apple, Google, Microsoft, FIDO Alliance, are united in their support for this standard, ensuring interoperability. The widespread shift to passkeys will dramatically reduce the password problem for both users, less hassle, more security and organizations, fewer password resets, reduced attack surface. Decentralized identity/self-sovereign identity, SSI. Imagine a world where you truly own and control your digital identity and data, rather than having it scattered across countless websites and managed by various corporations. This is the promise of decentralized identity, often referred to as self-sovereign identity, SSI. Key concept: SSI aims to put individuals in control of their digital identities. Instead of relying on a central authority, like Google or a government agency, to verify who you are, you would hold verifiable credentials. Cryptographically secure digital proofs of your attributes, e.g., your driver's license, your university degree, proof of age, in a secure digital wallet on your device. When a service needs to verify an attribute, you present that specific credential directly from your wallet without revealing any other personal data you hold. Blockchain integration. While not strictly necessary, blockchain technology is often explored as the underlying infrastructure for SSI to ensure the integrity, immutability, and trustworthiness of these verifiable credentials. The chain can provide a public, unchangeable record of who issued a credential, while the user maintains control over when and to whom they present it. Benefits: enhanced privacy. You only share the minimum necessary information to prove an attribute. If you need to prove you're over 21, you don't have to show your full driver's license with your address and date of birth. You just present a credential that simply confirms over 21. User control. You decide who verifies your identity and what information they see. Reduced centralization. Less reliance on large central identity providers, potentially reducing the impact of large-scale data breaches. Challenges: widespread adoption requires significant infrastructure, legal frameworks, and user education. Artificial intelligence, AI and machine learning, ML, in security. AI and ML are becoming increasingly integral to modern security systems, particularly in detecting and responding to threats related to identity and access. Behavioral biometrics continuous authentication. Instead of just authenticating at login, AI can continuously analyze your unique interaction patterns, typing speed, mouse movements, how you hold your phone, time of day you usually log in, your common IP addresses. If your behavior deviates significantly from your norm, the system might trigger additional checks or even flag the session as suspicious automatically. Anomaly detection. ML algorithms excel at identifying unusual login attempts, access patterns, or data exfiltration attempts that might indicate a compromised account or insider threat. For instance, if an employee suddenly tries to access files they've never touched before or logs in from an unusual geographical location, AI can flag this in real time. Automated threat response. AI can automate responses to detected threats, such as temporarily locking down a suspicious account or forcing a re-authentication. Zero trust architecture. Never trust, always verify. This simple mantra encapsulates the philosophy of zero trust architecture, a modern security model rapidly gaining traction, especially in corporate environments. Key concept: in traditional security, everything inside the corporate network was implicitly trusted. Zero trust reverses this. No user or device, whether inside or outside the network, is trusted by default. Every single access request must be authenticated and authorized. How it works: strict identity verification. Every person and device attempting to access resources must be authenticated and authorized. Least privilege access. Users are granted only the minimum access needed for their specific task, and access is continuously reevaluated. Continuous monitoring. All traffic and access attempts are monitored and logged. Implication for IAM. Authentication and authorization become even more critical and granular in a zero-trust environment. It's not enough to be logged into the network. Every individual application, dataset, and even individual action needs explicit permission. Privacy regulations and identity. The increasing focus on data privacy, driven by regulations like Europe's General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, and California's Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, is deeply impacting how organizations manage identities. Data minimization. Organizations are compelled to collect only the data they absolutely need to provide a service and not hold on to it indefinitely. This affects how identity data is stored and used. Right to access and erasure. Users have new rights to request what data is held about them and to ask for it to be deleted. Secure by design and privacy by design. These concepts are now legal requirements in many regions, meaning security and privacy must be considered from the initial design phase, not as an afterthought. This further emphasizes the critical role of robust authentication and authorization to enforce privacy policies. The future of identity and access management is shaping up to be more secure, more convenient, and more user-centric. With the rise of passwordless technologies, greater user control over identity data, and intelligent security systems, the digital world is striving towards a more seamless and safer experience. Understanding these ongoing developments empowers you to adapt to the changing landscape and continue to make informed choices about your identity and security online. Chapter 11. Your role in a safer web. A call to action. We've reached the end of our journey through the intricate world of authentication and authorization. From the moment you type a password to the decision of what functions an application allows you to access, you now have a comprehensive understanding of the digital gatekeepers and permission grantors that underpin almost every online interaction. We've seen that authentication answers, "Are you who you say you are?" It's about proving your identity using a variety of credentials, from passwords and MFA to modern biometrics and passkeys. Authorization answers, "What are you allowed to do?" It's about defining and enforcing permissions, often through models like role-based access control, RBAC, or the more granular attribute-based access control, ABAC, always guided by the principle of least privilege. Both are distinct but deeply intertwined, forming the fundamental pillars of web security. One without the other leaves critical vulnerabilities. The digital landscape is a dynamic battlefield, with constant evolution in both attack methods and defense strategies. This knowledge is not merely academic. It's a powerful tool that empowers you, the reader, to navigate the digital world with greater confidence and contribute to a safer online environment for everyone. for the everyday user. Become an active participant in your own security. You are not a passive bystander in the world of web security. Every choice you make, every setting you activate, directly impacts your personal safety and contributes to the overall security ecosystem. Here's your call to action. Master your passwords or ditch them smartly. Use a password manager. This is non-negotiable for serious online security. Let it generate strong, unique passwords for every site and save you the hassle of remembering them. Enable passkeys when available. Embrace this future-forward technology. The more you use passkeys, the more demand there will be for services to offer them, accelerating the move away from vulnerable passwords. Enable multi-factor authentication, MFA, everywhere. This is your strongest shield against credential theft. If an account offers MFA, turn it on, especially for your email, banking, social media, and any other critical services. Prefer authenticator apps or hardware keys over SMS where possible. Be a vigilant skeptic. Your sharpest tool is suspicion. Think before you click. Assume every unsolicited email or message is a phishing attempt until proven otherwise. Verify the sender. Hover over links. If in doubt, go direct. If an email from your bank or Netflix asks you to log in, don't click the link. Open your browser and type the official website address yourself. Don't fall for social engineering. Be wary of anyone trying to rush you or appeal to your emotions to get you to reveal information. Keep your digital house in order. Update your software. Enable automatic updates for your operating system, web browser, and all apps. Updates often contain critical security fixes. Review app permissions. Periodically check the Connected Apps section in your Google, Facebook, Apple, and other accounts. Revoke access for apps you no longer use or ones that request more permissions than they reasonably need. Understand what you share. Be mindful of the personal information you put online. The less public data criminals have about you, the harder it is for them to impersonate you or craft targeted attacks. Look for the padlock. Always check for HTTPS and the padlock icon in your browser's address bar when logging in or submitting sensitive information. This indicates an encrypted connection. For companies and developers, building trust in the digital age. For those who build and manage web applications, you hold an immense responsibility. The trust of your users, the integrity of your data, and the reputation of your organization depend on the strength of your authentication and authorization systems. Prioritize security by design. Embed security considerations into every phase of development, from initial concept to deployment and maintenance. It's more cost-effective and secure than patching vulnerabilities later. Implement strong backend security. Use robust hashing for passwords, secure API keys, and comprehensive logging. Assume the front end can always be bypassed and enforce all authorization decisions on the server side. Make MFA easy and encourage it. Default to MFA for all users or make it mandatory for sensitive accounts. Optimize the user experience so security is not seen as a burden. Embrace passwordless technologies. Actively research and implement passkey support. This is the future, offering unparalleled security and convenience. Regularly audit and test. Don't just set up security and forget it. Conduct regular security audits, penetration tests, and vulnerability scans to proactively identify and fix weaknesses. Educate your users. Invest in clear, effective communication to help your users understand how to protect themselves and why certain security measures are in place. The dynamic nature of security. This book has provided a snapshot of best practices and technologies for authentication and authorization as they stand today. However, the world of cybersecurity is constantly evolving. New threats emerge and new defenses are developed. What is cutting edge today may be standard practice tomorrow or even obsolete. Therefore, the most crucial takeaway is the importance of continuous learning and adaptation. Stay informed about new security trends, adopt new technologies as they mature, and never become complacent. By understanding the logic behind these digital doors and the permissions that govern our access, we can not only protect ourselves more effectively, but also advocate for, build, and contribute to a more secure, trustworthy, and ultimately, more functional digital world. The journey is ongoing, and your informed participation is a vital step towards a safer collective future.